Hello and welcome to this edition of Alabama Adventures Getting Close to Bigfoot. Tonight we're going to be talking about some companions that are sometimes have been spotted with Bigfoot.
Now this is a wolf.
And this of course is a Chico dog. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight is companions that are sometimes seen with Bigfoot. I have not had a report here in Alabama of Bigfoot being seen with dogs or wolves, but I have had reports from other places. One place that I have received reports from, I won't call the exact town or anything like that, but it is out west. Bigfoot has been seen several times with wolves. That's why I showed you the little wolf there on the table to begin with. I have had several reports where the wolf would be walking side by side with Bigfoot when he was seen walking through the woods or out on the plains or wherever the Bigfoot are at out there in western states. Also, I had somebody that asked me the other night, have I ever had a report of Bigfoot with dogs? And I have, but as I said before, it has not been here in Alabama. It's been from somewhere else. But as recently as about a week ago, I was doing a video where a Bigfoot had just been seen. It was called a Wood Knock Holler 4 is the name of the video. If you want to go back and watch it, you might see the dog or the wolf or possibly a coyote in there. I'm going to get a still picture to put on here to show you what I believe was either a dog or a coyote, because we have a lot of coyotes here in Alabama now. Here is a still picture of that outline that looked exactly like a dog or a coyote as I was doing some filming. And I did not see this thing until we got back home and I downloaded the video to start editing it. I've got several things that I want to tell you about tonight. As you probably noticed, our background has kind of changed a little bit. But anyway, what we want to talk about right now is the companions that are sometimes seen with Bigfoot. As an overall, I guess Bigfoot doesn't particularly like dogs, has been my past experience and the reports that I've had. I want to tell you real quick why I say that. Several years ago, when I still lived with my parents at home, at that time I probably had 20 or 25 dogs out in the front yard. And this was around 1971 when we had a lot of Bigfoot sightings in this area. Of course, now, as I've said before, we didn't know what Bigfoot was in 1971. We thought it was a giant monkey or some kind of monster that had just wandered up out of the woods. But anyway, when this thing would do its howl or its yell, the dogs would just bark like they were just going wild or something was fixing to eat them up. One thing that we noticed a lot was this Bigfoot at the time was what it was, that what we call the monster would imitate a hoot owl. And when he would do this, the dogs would really go crazy. And I had somebody that does a lot of camping down in Tallapoosa County just a few weeks ago. They were down there camping, and Bigfoot came in pretty close proximity to them, and they were saying that when this Bigfoot made a sound imitating an owl, that the owls that were around just went crazy. Just they didn't particularly like it either. So what significance that has, I'm not sure yet, but we'll keep checking into it. Anyway, one of the first things I want to tell you about Bigfoot and a dog, aside from when he used to holler, that my dogs would just go crazy in the yard. They would try to get in the house. They would get under the porch, anywhere that they thought they could find safety, I guess, from this thing is what they would do. Anyway, one of the first reports that I received was about Bigfoot encountering a dog was from Chambers County, Alabama. And I'll tell you about that real quick. First, let's go to Chambers County, and I'll show you where I met the gentleman that morning in a little community called Fredonia, Alabama. Okay, here we are today coming into Fredonia, Alabama. Fredonia is just a little rural community in Chambers County, but this is the second sighting or report I ever had of a dog involved with a Bigfoot encounter. And we'll go right up here and I'll show you just a little bit of what's left of Fredonia. Actually, all it is a little
crossroads, and someone, I believe, has opened up an antique market here. And I'm going to pull over here in front of this old store. As you can see, Fredonia is located at a crossroads here. I believe it's in northern Chambers County. And anyway, there's the crossroads and the main road that comes through town. And that road there carries you on to West Point, Georgia. Here is a store building that's been here for many years. And this is where I came to meet the man the morning that he wanted to tell me about an encounter that he and his dog had had with a Bigfoot here near Fredonia. We won't go to the exact location where it happened. I'm not sure if anybody lives there now or not, but I'll just give you another quick view of the old store. This is where I met the man at that morning. We'll go back to the studio and I'll tell you the story of what he told me.
Well, after I got down to Fredonia to the old Cumbie store down there was what it was called. That's where I met him at that morning. We went on over to his house, and this is what he told me. He had been seeing some kind of monster, he called it, because we didn't know what, like I said, he didn't know what a Bigfoot was either back then. But he'd been seeing this big tall thing walk around the house, and he had lost some chickens and some other livestock, he thought, to it. Anyway, what was happening was his dog would get after this thing. It had got in his chicken house at one time, and several of his chickens had come up missing, and he did find where they had probably been killed. He found a lot of feathers and stuff like that on away from his house. But anyway, his dog would bark at this thing at night, and I think he had shot at it a time or two. But anyway, one night, the dog was really after it. It was close to the chicken house, and the dog was really after it one night, and he heard the dog holler, just make a loud yelp like somebody had hit the dog. Then anyway, he didn't hear the dog bark anymore the rest of the night, and he got up. He didn't go out because he kind of had an idea that it was this creature, and he didn't want to encounter it, even though he had a gun, and he had previously shot at it. But anyway, the next day he got to looking for his dog, and he hunted, and he told some of his neighbors that his dog had went missing, and he thought that possibly this monster had killed his dog or something. Anyway, it was about 2 or 3 days later, he had a freezer sitting out in a little garage where he pulled his car in, and he had a freezer out there, and he decided to go look in the freezer to get something out for he and his wife did for supper one night, and about 2 or 3 nights after the dog had disappeared. And when he opened the freezer, the dog was in the freezer frozen. But anyway, he didn't know how the dog had managed to get in there. But over time, what they came up with, he called the police, and they carried the dog to a vet somewhere. But they had tests run on it to see if the dog was put in the freezer and froze to death or what happened. The test that came back said the dog received a blow to the head, and that the dog was dead when it was put in the freezer, which is a good thing if it had to die. I had rather it be killed like that than to be put in the freezer and froze to death. But anyway, the dog was froze completely solid when the man found it about 3 days after the little occurrence. Although that was the first time that I heard of Bigfoot encountering a dog. Then it was along about this same time, back around 1971, that I had another friend of mine that I know very well, I've known for years. As a matter of fact, he and I used to deer hunt together back then, and in those days, almost everybody that deer hunted had a homemade dog box on the back of the truck where you could haul the dogs from one area to the other to turn them out on whatever you were about to hunt. And I'll make this is kind of a long story, but I'll make it as short as possible to just tell you of this encounter with dogs and a Bigfoot. The man had been hunting all day one day, and he was on his way in home, and he came down the road, and he saw a creature that he had never seen before come sliding down off of a bank.
As you can see, There's hardly a cloud in the sky, and it's pouring down rain here. That's just kind of odd. The sun's out right over those trees. This is where we've done all the videos of Wood Knock Holler, and you can see that it's raining pretty hard. Just sort of gives you a funny feeling. We'll get back in the car before I get soaking wet.
It came off this bank and it sort of trotted across the road. It didn't run, it didn't walk. It kind of trotted like it was getting out of the way of the vehicle across the road. But he immediately stopped, and to make a long story short, he put the dogs on the trail of this thing. And he always had about 8 or 10 deer dogs in this dog box. Now, a dog box, I'll tell you real quick, is made out of plywood. It's on the very end of a pickup truck, where when you let the tailgate down, all the dogs can jump out at the same time, and that way save time and get them on the trail as quick as you can to whatever you're putting them on. But he put them on this trail of this thing, and I'm gonna say they chased it down through the woods 150 or 200 yards, and he was running along behind. Of course, the dogs left him, but he was running along behind trying to see if he could get a shot at this thing. He had planned to shoot it. It was actually because there had been so many sightings of this thing, nobody knew what it was, but he knew if he could kill it, then we could find out for sure what this thing was. That had been multiple sightings in 1971. But anyway, as he ran through the woods, he heard the dogs bay. And when a dog bays, that means he's got something treed, or one of the dogs has caught it and they've got it down. They hadn't caught it. Well, kind of they had caught it, but they didn't have it down. When he came over a little hill in the woods, he saw his dogs under this large oak tree, and they were barking and jumping up in the air at something. And as he got a little closer, then he could see that this thing was sitting on the bottom limb of a big oak tree. And up until about a year or so ago, that oak tree was in the woods. Heck, it had never been cut. Right now, the woods are beginning to grow back up, and I can't see if the tree's in there or not, but I could take you to the exact location if you wanted to go see that. One of its feet was hanging down a little bit low off of the limb. That's what the dogs were after. They were trying to get it by the foot and pull it out of the tree, but they couldn't do it. They couldn't jump that high hardly. But anyway, I won't go into detail about what all happened. He had prepared to shoot it, but he didn't shoot it. And then this thing jumped out of the tree right into the middle of a pack of dogs, about 8 or 10 hounds. And I mean, these dogs are trained to chase deer, to catch them if they possibly can. He had one particular dog that was part wolf, and this dog had actually run deer down and caught them. And as a matter of fact, he caught one day at the wrong time, and just as the guy pulled the trigger to shoot a deer, the dog grabbed it by the neck, and the bullet hit the dog on the very top of the nose. It didn't tear his nose up or anything. It just creased the dog's nose and left a little indentation or hole in the top of the dog's nose for the rest of its life. But that's just what kind of dogs you had. These dogs all weighed around 80 pounds. This one particular dog that got shot, he was probably a good 100-pound dog, because like I said, he was part wolf. And that's all these dogs were trained for, is to chase deer. That's all that their life consisted of. And when this thing jumped out of the tree, they all attacked it. But it went to swinging its arm. This guy said this thing went to swinging its arms, hitting the dog, hitting them in the shoulder, hitting them in the side. He said dogs were sailing through the air and every other which way. And then they took off running. He said this thing never actually growled or made any sounds. It just went to swinging its arms, hitting the dogs, knocking the dogs off of it when they were trying to bite it. Anyway, he said the dogs took off toward the truck and actually ran over the top of him on the way back to the truck, and said then he turned around. Whenever all the dogs were gone, he was just left there. And I'll go into other detail about why he didn't shoot it, but he decided that he wouldn't shoot it. The main reason is when he saw its face, it looked too human. So he took off back to the truck too, and he said when he got to the truck, which was about, like I said, about 150 to 200 yards away, the dogs were waiting on him. He said most of them had already, where he had left the tailgate down, most of them were already in the dog box waiting on him to go. And so he got the rest of them in the box and came on to my house that afternoon as soon as this had happened and told me about it. Then the bad thing about it was whatever happened to these dogs over there, whatever they experienced with this thing hitting them and jumping in the pack of them while they were on the ground, the only dog that ever hunted again was the one that was part wolf, and he said he was never the same. So whatever the Bigfoot did to frighten these dogs, hitting them and fighting back at them, or whatever you want to call it, changed their mind the rest of their life. The dogs were absolutely no good as far as deer hunting went at that time. Now, one final story that I would like to tell you about dogs encountering Bigfoot is if you will go back through our videos to a video that we did, Alabama Adventures Getting Close to Bigfoot, Baby Cries. Some people believe it's a Bigfoot infant crying, but you can go back and listen to the video and you can decide for yourself what you think it is. But why I was telling you that, in the video there is one point where the lady that's doing the videoing and the recording of the sounds, that you can hear her dog take out barking. The dog has been on the porch and the dog takes out barking in the direction of this baby sound, and you can hear the dog barking as it runs up to whatever it is, and then you can hear something hit the dog. The dog yelps or yells or whatever you want to call it, and then she says the dog doesn't bark anymore that night. The dog comes back to the porch and will not get off the porch. The dog wants in the house. Whatever it was hit the dog pretty hard from the way that it sounds in this video. And as I said, if you would like to, you can go back and listen to that. And I have had several other reports of dogs encountering Bigfoot, but this is what it all boils down to mainly, is the dog will like be on the porch and it will go to barking at something. People have come in close encounter with Bigfoot at these particular locations, like they have seen one in the woods, or maybe they've seen one walk by the window whenever the porch light was on or something like that, or they've seen tracks in the yard. Anyway, they know that Bigfoot are in that area, and a lot of times dogs will go to barking, then they will go down into the woods or seem like they're chasing this thing. And bottom line on all the stories that I get about dogs and Bigfoot is they come back whining, they get on the porch, will not get off the porch, want to come in the house, seem like they're frightened of something, and they just won't do any more barking or chasing after whatever it is that particular night. And I've had this happen on several occasions, and a matter of fact, about a week ago, about the middle of July in Clay County, I've had several reports out of Clay County lately, but in Clay County, a lady was telling me the exact same story, that her dog, that she had seen footprints and stuff like that in the other signs around her house, and the dog got after something one night and yelled and come back to the porch and would not get off the porch. And as a matter of fact, it didn't get off she said it didn't, this particular dog didn't get off the porch the next morning until she went out to get in the car to go to work. But anyway, that's some encounters that we have had reports on of Bigfoot and dogs. Apparently, Alabama Bigfoot don't care too much for dogs. Seem like the dogs want to chase them or would harm them or whatever, and undoubtedly Bigfoot already knows that. Now then, one other thing I want to take tonight, I hope you enjoyed that little video about Bigfoot's companions. As I said, I have had reports of Bigfoot walking with deer in the woods, and it's possibly that they use them for pack animals, or deers are very alert to other things and humans in the woods. They might be using them for that also. Something else I wanted to mention tonight, I have had a few reports lately of Bigfoot being reported around the state of Alabama, but not with long hair, with short hair, and it looked thin. And what we're wondering now, maybe does Bigfoot shed in the summertime like other animals? I know he's not a complete 100% animal. I know he's about 50% human, but he may have enough animal in him to shed, especially in this 100-degree plus weather that we have experienced here for about the last week and a half. Today was one day that it only got up to about 92, and you could really tell the difference in the temperature. So that's something else I want you to think about. Maybe keep an eye out for if you have reports of Bigfoot with short hair, and maybe he does shed. Maybe that's a summer coat that he has. I would also like to say, as I always do, hello to my granddaughter Madison. This little mandala here is her hand. I try to keep that on as a reminder that we're thinking about her, and hope to get to see her real soon. I would also like to say, as I usually do, that the Alabama Bigfoot Society is run completely out of pocket, and if you would like to make a donation of any kind, equipment or money, that would be very much appreciated. And with all that being said, I would like to say once again thank you for watching this video tonight. If you like the video, I hope you give us a like, and I hope you subscribe to the channel. And we'll be looking for you on the next Alabama adventure, getting close to Bigfoot.